I'm meteorologist Mark, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Weather and War. Today, we're in Tennessee. It's November 24th, 1863. Union soldiers begin climbing the slopes of Lookout Mountain near Chattanooga. As they advanced, a thick blanket of clouds wrapped around the mountainside. Soldiers disappeared into the mist, and muskets were fired from unseen positions. Officers could barely see their own men. Newspapers soon called it the Battle Above the Clouds. But did the clouds actually affect the battle? Or was it simply one of history's greatest nicknames? Today, we're going to separate fact from legend. Again, this is meteorologist Mark with Weather and War. After Gettysburg, attention shifted west. Chattanooga became one of the most important railroad hubs in the South. Whoever controlled Chattanooga controlled movement through much of the Deep South. Confederate General Braxton Bragg occupied the high ground around the city. Now, that name Bragg may sound familiar to many of you all, as it's the namesake of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the Airborne and Special Operations Forces. However, a commission designed in January of 2021 was created by Congress to remove any namesakes of those who sided with the Confederates during the Civil War. Fort Bragg was then changed to Fort Liberty. Then, in 2025, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth renamed the base to Fort Bragg. But this time it was named after Private First Class Roland Bragg, a World War II hero. The cost of those name changes, incidentally, likely exceeded around $6 million. To say this was all controversial is to say the least. But I digress. Back to Chattanooga and the increasing concern for the railroad traffic there. One position towered above all the others: Lookout Mountain. From the summit, Confederate troops could observe nearly everything happening in Chattanooga below. As a meteorologist, I'll point out that high ground doesn't just provide military advantages, it comes with its own weather as well. You see, when moist air reaches a mountain, it rises, expands, saturates, and clouds form. We actually call this orographic lifting. Now, if you've ever driven through the Smokies or across the Cumberland Plateau of Tennessee, you've probably seen this happen. One moment it's sunny, a few hundred feet higher, you're driving through a cloud. Air encounters the mountain, is forced to rise, which forces it to cool, which forces it to condense, and that creates our clouds. The Lookout Mountain battle occurred during late November when cool temperatures and abundant moisture favored low clouds and fog. As a meteorologist, I can tell you that if I had issued a forecast for Chattanooga on the morning of November 24th, 1863, I would have been watching for low clouds and fog clinging to the mountain. Cool late autumn air, abundant moisture from the Tennessee River Valley, and air being forced up the mountain slopes create ideal conditions for clouds to form right on the terrain. To the soldiers, it may have seemed mysterious, especially for those not familiar with Tennessee topography. But today we understand the science better. But the sight is still just as breathtaking. Now, Union Army General Hooker advances. Confederates defend. Clouds begin covering portions of the mountainside. Smoke from thousands of muskets mixes with that fog. Visibility drops dramatically. Imagine trying to identify friend from foe while standing inside a cloud. Many soldiers couldn't see very far at all. Officers struggled to coordinate attacks. Messages took longer. Artillery observers had limited visibility. This is where weather becomes part of the battle itself. Now keep in mind, The clouds did not determine the outcome by themselves. The clouds did reduce visibility. They added confusion. They created uncertainty. They concealed troop movements in certain places, and the clouds even made command and control more difficult. Now, the Union ultimately forced the Confederates from the mountain because of effective leadership, pressure on multiple fronts, and the broader Chattanooga campaign, not because the fog handed them the victory. Now, here's the fascinating part. Many of today's famous paintings actually exaggerate how high the clouds were. Some soldiers were above portions of the cloud deck. Others were inside it. Others fought below it. The nickname came largely because newspaper correspondents viewing from Chattanooga saw soldiers seemingly fighting in the clouds. That image captured the public's imagination, and rightly so. And the name stuck forever. All these years later, Lookout Mountain still produces the same weather. Moist air still rises, clouds still wrap around its slopes, fog still hides the mountain from the valley below from time to time. The weather that helped give this battle its famous name hasn't changed. Sometimes weather changes history by freezing armies, flooding rivers, or even bringing hurricanes. Sometimes it simply hides a battlefield inside the clouds. And that was enough to create one of the Civil War's most unforgettable names. I'm meteorologist Mark. Thanks for watching Weather and War. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to subscribe to this YouTube page and share it with someone who enjoys history as much as weather. And remember, history doesn't just happen under the weather. Sometimes it happens inside it.